Let's move over to a flyweight clash now as we have Almabayev coming in at minus 250, going up against the Energy Charles Johnson, who comes in at plus 210. Now, Almabayev will be looking for his third straight victory this weekend after that knockout loss that he suffered at the hands of Manel Kape. That was a fight, if you guys remember, that he took on very short notice, hoping to, capitalize on some of the success that he's had as of late, taking on Manel Kape in a main event slot. Unfortunately, we saw him get absolutely outstruck, battered, and eventually knocked out, I believe, in the second or third round of that fight. Almabayev, not a bad striker by any means. He's a guy that can go out there and actually land some decent damage of his own, but he was clearly behind it there in that fight against Kape, hence why he ended up getting butchered, especially with his inability to get to his wrestling game, which is often where he finds safety in a lot of his fights. We saw that in his rebound win over Jose Ochoa, who we know is a very dangerous striker. Almabayev, we were able to get a near pick-em price that night. He was able to get his takedowns. He was able to get some good control. He even landed some decent shots on the feet as well. But if he's significantly behind it in the striking realm, that's where he's going to start to struggle against some guys. The Alex Perez fight. I believe we saw him have good success in the first round. Momentum started to slip through his fingers in the second round as Perez was landing some good shots and defending the takedowns. But then in that third round, he slapped on that guillotine and Perez was forced to tap within the first 30 seconds of that third round. So great way for Almabayev to snatch that momentum back in his favor and win his second fight in a row. I think the Kape fight kind of showed us his ceiling, even though if it was, on short notice, even if he had a full training camp for that fight, I fully expected to have gone the same way it did that night. But he is a guy that will linger around that top 5 ranking, right? His wrestling and his ability to mix it with his striking will make it very difficult for a lot of fighters that are a little bit more one-dimensional, whether they're just strictly grapplers or strictly strikers, just as we saw in the Jose Ochoa fight. But he's a fun fighter, very talented fighter, but not a guy that I expect to get close to title contention, considering some of the, skill differences that we see between him and the top 3 in the division. Now, this weekend, he goes up against a veteran here in Charles Johnson, who was able to squeak out a split decision victory over Bruno Silva last time around in a fight that, if you watched with the commentary off, you would probably see why Johnson deserved to win that fight. He was sticking and moving well. Even though he was fighting off his back foot for the majority of that fight, he was countering the aggression of Bruno Silva pretty well, and I thought it was pretty clear, at least watching it myself, that Johnson deserved the victory that night. That was him bouncing back from getting knocked out by Alex Perez earlier this year. Perez did a great job in terms of keeping heavy pressure on him, landing big shots, and even though I picked Perez to win that night myself, I didn't expect Perez to get it done that way. He consistently hurt Johnson, and the referee gave Johnson every chance to try to fight himself back into that fight. He just could not do it. Perez was just on that like a dog on a bone and was not letting it go. But we've seen some big wins from Johnson throughout his UFC career to showcase that he could go out there and beat the best in the division on any given night. He is the lone defeat on Joshua Van's UFC record. He even knocked Joshua Van out. He beat and knocked out Lonnie Kavanaugh, and that was Lonnie Kavanaugh's lone pro defeat. So he does kind of bounce back in between, some of these fights and some of these opponents, and showcasing that, again, on any given night, he could definitely be a championship contender type fighter, or at least put on those types of performances. He is 35 years old, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But, we are seeing some decent performances from him. Muay Thai, I'd say, would be his best base. He loves to keep up decent volume. I don't like that he constantly moves backward, which optically doesn't look that great, especially if he's eating some big shots in return. I am impressed with his grappling defense. He can be taken down, but this guy does not settle at all. So most opponents kind of struggle to keep him on his back. He's almost instantly looking to get back to his feet, his knees, the cage, and then from there getting back to his feet and then trying to get back to his Muay Thai style. But he can be taken down, and that's kind of just disrupts his rhythm whenever he's starting to get into his striking rhythm as well. But he's a fun fighter, showcases that he deserves to be on the UFC roster every time out, even if he ends up on the losing end. Now, this weekend, he goes up against Almabayev. Now, a lot of people are going to be leaning with Almabayev going out there and getting those takedowns and grounding Johnson out, but they are not giving Johnson the respect he deserves and the fact that he just does not settle, right? I don't think Almabayev will get a whole lot of control time on the mat. Maybe he gets control time up against the fence, working for takedowns, landing some dirty boxing, trying to get Johnson to the mat. It's going to be Almabayev's ability to mix it together that I think eventually gets him over the finish line here. He's going to have to land some big shots on Johnson, keep Johnson moving on the back foot, kind of find ways to thwart the offense of Johnson and the output that Johnson normally puts out there. But I think the ability to mix in the takedowns at opportune moments and then get off on some big shots will allow Almabayev to win this fight. I'm not so certain that it happens at a minus 250 clip, but I'm not so intrigued in terms of taking a big underdog price on Charles Johnson either. So my official prediction is going to be Almabayev and Almabayev by decision, but I expect this fight to be pretty close. So I'm going to pass on this fight all in all, unless somehow Almabayev gets down to minus 150, which I highly doubt considering the trajectory of these odds at this moment or the trend. But regardless, I'm going to go Almabayev and Almabayev by decision.